In October 2024, the Forgotten Heroes Foundation partnered with Black Women in Aviation for our Project Green Sky event. And we got to meet Samantha T. Mitchell for the first time. This trailblazing airframe and power plant mechanic worked side by side to help us teach our team of teens about electric aviation. And we were totally psyched. Immediately, we scheduled Sam to be our next podcast guest. While researching Sam's career and her foundation, here's what we learned about this episode's amazing guest. Sam is an internationally recognized leadership expert with over 25 years of experience in the aerospace and aviation industries. She's also part of a small percentage of female professionals in her industries. She's passionate about pursuing a STEM-focused career, serving as the first female aircraft maintenance technician at the John F. Kennedy International Airport. She's a team leader. She's authored several bestseller books. She facilitates workshops and is a highly sought-after public speaker. Plus, she is the founder and president of Black Women in Aviation, a foundation determined to increase the percentage of Black women in the aviation industry. Sam is driven to foster change and growth in the generations to come through teaching STEM and aviation while mentoring young ladies interested in these industries. Micah, our co-founder, has the opportunity of sitting down and talking with Sam right in our own little podcast studio. Learn how Sam is changing the face of aviation.
All right, welcome to our podcast, Jet Set Learn. I'm here with my phenomenal guest, Sam Mitchell. And I actually want to just take the chance to get to know you more. I mean, I've read a few things about you online, and actually, for those who don't know, she gave her husband a really nice present. We got to go flying just now, so I'm still suited up, and I'm still kind of jacked up from flying and pulling G's, and that was all fun. But it was really cool to be up in the air and experience it. And I thought that was a very thoughtful gift from someone who's in aviation and understands the fact that flying is a really cool privilege. But tell me a little bit about where you came from, and the main thing that we really want to talk about is Black Women in Aviation, the phenomenal foundation you started running and doing some good things. So, but just tell me a little bit about yourself, and then how did you get interested in aviation first, long before you started Black Women in Aviation?
Sure. So, look, I didn't know that Black women in aviation would even be a thing. A lot of people that I talk to now, they're like, oh, I've always known I wanted to do this. And I'm like, did I miss the boat? Like, it wasn't until I was in high school and I was just like thoroughly I was in a discovery state, really just trying to figure out what was my next. Yeah. And I felt like everyone had it all figured out but me. And I stumbled upon the College of Aeronautics via a brochure. And this was during like my senior year when everybody was applying to schools and I didn't know where I wanted to apply to. And the brochure came just in time. And that was after I told myself a story that I was going to be an auto mechanic. Because all of the years growing up, I loved taking things apart, putting them together. Like, even though I had a brother, like, I was that girl. Yeah. And I was like, so how do I transfer this skill to, like, a career path? And all I knew was cars. And I was like, so I guess I'd become an auto mechanic. But the brochure literally changed the trajectory of my life. Because that brochure opened me up to aviation. Because I was like, be an auto mechanic, be an aviation maintenance technician. I was like, wait, that just sounds way cooler. And then I was like, I get to be around airplanes. And I love aviation. And just, because I still get mesmerized every time I see an aircraft flying, just the fundamentals of flight. So that really excited me. And so I went to college. And so in college is where I met Devon.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't just get my AMP at FCC.
So Devon, that's Devon. What do we call him?
Oh, Opti.
Opti, that's right. Because it's short for optimizer. But
yes, the call name, the official call name. So yes, I met Opti in college. We both have the same undergrad, and while I was in college,
nice.
Yeah, they're really, it was a sea of Sams. It was just me. There weren't any like females, one or two. And so Devon was chasing the one sea of Sam, and he was like, okay, this is it. Fast forward, I was just like, I really want to figure out what my next is. I can't be as confused as I was in high school when I leave college. And I said, well, what does that look like? And I was like, well, if I'm going to be in aviation, I want to be with the Boeing Company. And the Boeing Company was like my ultimate goal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So real quick, in college, what did you study? What was it?
So I have my aeronautical technology degree. So I have
Nice.
yeah. And that basically is you get your bachelor's and you get your A&P and then you get your
so
FCC.
A&P?
Yeah, A&P and FCC with the bachelor's
That's what
degree.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got something that actually translate immediately. Like you
Yeah.
can be cranking or doing whatever immediately. That's awesome. Yeah.
That was the goal because
Yeah.
I was like, I can't be confused coming out. Like
Yeah,
what
right,
happened to
right,
me in high
yeah.
school can't be happening when I get out of college
Yeah.
because now the real world starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you had your A&P. I might have to get you down here crank on some planes a little
Look,
bit. I
look.
know. look. I know it might be whatever, but turning wrenches is turning wrenches, right?
Yeah. So you say that. So I coming out of college, my first job, although I did say I wanted to work for Boeing, I couldn't work for Boeing right away because I was not a U.S. person. So my citizenship status stopped me from that job.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah,
Let's go back.
yeah,
So you were not a citizen. So where were you originally a citizen from?
So I was born in Jamaica.
Jamaica. All right.
Yeah, and the Jamaican girl was like, I'm gonna work for the Boeing company.
That's right.
No, not like that.
Not right away. Though.
Not right away.
Okay.
So I was at a crossroads in that moment because I basically got the job and lost the job all in the same day. It was like a conversation like this.
What?
Yeah, and this was for, it was funny because it was like the fighters in St. Louis. And so they flew me out there and I'm talking to the HR rep and he was talking about secret clearance, top secret clearance. And at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, U.S. persons. Yeah. So I lost that opportunity, but I knew that I was gonna have to choose something else. So I went back to my college and they were hiring, Air Jamaica was hiring. So of course I was like, listen, I'm Jamaican. They can't deny me.
Yeah.
Like Boeing denied me first go around. I was like, no, I got to get this. So I got the job at Air Jamaica, and I worked at a JFK. I was the first female mechanic working.
So what were you working on?
Airbuses.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I was an Airbus girl that 1 year that I worked commercial. So I did that for a whole year. While I was working there, I was working on getting my citizenship.
Okay.
Because I was like, I gotta go to where I said I was gonna go. Yeah. So I basically got the citizenship within that year.
Okay.
And then Boeing came back around and I got the job at Boeing. Boom.
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 So this is what I like about that story, like, because sometimes people just give up because you got told no, and it was a valid reason. Having flown fighters and knowing what you want and what you expect, it was a valid reason. I think along the pipeline, hopefully we can like make sure that people like get that information. Like, yo, you need to get that citizenship before you go into this, because like you said, you had it right there. But the thing I love about that story up to this point, like again, I knew it was gonna be a phenomenal interview. The thing I love about that story is like you didn't say, I'm quitting. They told me no. No, what you do? You went out and kept doing what you wanted. That passion was still there. Probably learned a whole lot. I'm hoping to hear more about that. But then came back and then you got it. So, years before that, there was this vision, this idea of doing this. And now, bam, you walked in and you got it. So it was like, I got goosebumps just talking about it, just listening to this story. So I love that persistence. And that's one of the things I try to internalize for myself is like, hey, this is not going to always be easy, even though you want it. And there's plenty of people out there assisting. There's some, you got to be persistent about it. But
yeah, adversity will show up.
Yeah.
And the question is, what do you do when it shows up? Will you be resilient and know that, look, there's something on the other side of this? What is this trying to teach me?
Yeah.
Like, so real quick, because this is crazy. Like, I didn't understand why I had to go to Air Jamaica, but people love the Air Jamaica story. Like, if I had just went to Boeing, because that was corporate. Like, I touch aircraft, but not at the level in which I had to touch them at the airport. Out on the ramp, midnight, like it was just crazy with that experience. But I was like, no, I needed that experience. I needed to work with the type of people I worked with so that when I transferred over to corporate, it was a muscle that was activated on a whole nother level.
Yeah. So now we got a foot in the door, got the job at Boeing. What did your career or path at Boeing look like?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
So, being an A&P, I ended up transferring those skills and knowledge to being a technical author. So I was writing the maintenance manuals. I was doing wiring. So I did that for like a year and a half. And then like I didn't just switch. I got on this kick because the guy that I worked for when I first got in, he was not my person. And I learned from working at Air Jamaica, I needed to find my person. So I like switched jobs, and then like I found my person.
So explain, unpack that a little bit. What do you mean your person?
Yeah, so it's really important to work with and have someone who's advocating for you.
Yeah.
When you are the only person in any space, like it's lonely. Like it truly is lonely being the only. And if you don't have someone that is hooking their caboose to you and really just showing you the way, you're not going to survive. Because there's a mental toughness that even the toughest of the tough, like it's just one of those challenging things. And so like that person was not my person, and it was apparent. Like it's apparent when you see two people, like they did a bunch of college hires, right? And I'm like, you treat this other person differently. So it was a guy. It wasn't like a black and white thing, right? So I was like, So I was like, nah, it's a male-female thing. So I was like, okay, I see what's going on. So I was like, you know what, I'm out. I like applied to every and anything, whether I wanted to do it or not. And he watched, and it was funny watching him because he was like, I applied for a job, and I applied for another job. The one job that came through first was a job that I didn't want.
Yeah.
And the money was more and all that kind of stuff. And he thought I was going to take it because as my manager, he sees all that stuff. He saw the decline. And he was like, he's seen the next one come through.
Did he ever talk to you about?
He talked to me, but like I could read him. It was like he was playing games. When that real offer came through, it was like an 18% increase. He didn't believe that I could do that because this is a guy that took his whiteboard and said, first off, like straight 40,000 over X amount of 3%, blah, 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 blah. And he mapped it out. And I was like, oh, hell no. I was like, I can't let you write my destiny. This is not it. So I was like, nah, you're not my guy. So it's important to have people who believe in you and believe in like your purpose and how you show up, whether you're at work or not. So now I'm always in a season where I'm like, I'm evaluating everybody. I'm like, are you going to be there calling my name when I'm not there? What are you saying about me? How am I showing up?
So a few minutes ago, you mentioned finding your person. So I want to make two plugs. One, or make a plug and then ask. One, everyone listening to this podcast, we should be striving to be that person for somebody else. Looking back to be able to hook and bring the next person up. I personally have found, not every space is going to be that, but I found that in aviation, there are those people. It may not be the first person you run into, but there are people. And so I guess my question back to you right now is, all right, you found out, you identified this person, this particular first manager at Boeing was not your guy. Follow up with me on, so what do you do in the case that you don't find that guy or your guy immediately? What do you do, and then what's next, I guess?
What's next, right? So I think it's really important for you to attract your person.
Okay.
And that's where you, like self-awareness plays a really big part of it. And so everyone that I work with now, I really just, I implore them to do that discovery work for themselves, because you emit a certain frequency. And when you're on that frequency, you start to attract the right people in your inner circle.
Yeah.
And then that's how you're really able to elevate and to be able to grow.
So you think there's a potential, and I like that piece about the self-reflection, because maybe the vibe or the frequency of that person may not be your. So you look at yourself first, or in addition to looking at that. So I think that's really awesome. I think that's really important. And I learn stuff from everybody that sits in that seat, and that's something that it's reiterating to me personally. To do that self-reflection. It's not always the other person. And it's not always one or the other. You got.
Well, no, and then the other thing too. I love how you said that. It's not always the other person, because what I learned after the fact, because I was in my feelings. As I was going through it.
Yeah.
Then I was like, he doesn't have a clue how he was showing up.
Oh, yeah.
Even to this day, he does not have a clue.
Did you see this podcast? He might know.
No, because he's in one of my books, and he don't know.
Oh, snap!
You just don't know.
Okay.
But people have their own biases, and
Yeah.
he had a bias that I was impacted by.
Okay. So how long were you at Boeing for?
Over 20 years now.
Okay, so we're still at the very beginning. So, all right, you found the job, and I'm assuming that job was underneath someone or with someone that was going to provide some mentorships and hooking. So what was that job? What was it? Like we did tech writing over here. What is this next?
So that was research and development.
Okay.
So that one, like the tech writing is boring. I mean.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah. So
R&D, that's where it's at. Yeah.
It really is, because I get the best of both worlds. So it's more on the hands-on. I'm like developing solutions for problems as they're doing the build. And then I have office work. So it was like I wasn't always on the shop floor and I wasn't always sitting at a desk. So it was a really good mix.
Yeah. I find that at least a lot of people that I know that are interested in aviation and gravitate to aviation, they're not office people. You know what I mean? So yeah, office work is part of it, but they're not really not office people. Especially when you get out there and you support the team and doing whatever else. You're flying the plane, you're up in the air looking around, and you just worked on this thing. This is the thing that I like about mechanics, AMPs, especially those AMPs that like to go fly, because what that does is I know that they're confident in the work that they just did. And I'm sure you saw or was able to experience or get exposure to that concept at Air Jamaica, because what you said, you were out on the line working this stuff. So so now we are R&D. Now I want you to tell me something. I know you're at the Boeing company working on fighters, whatever else, and some of the stuff you can talk about, some of your stuff you can't talk about. In R&D, that's usually like whether it's business or whether it's security. Tell me the coolest thing you worked on that you can talk about in R&D.
That's a good question. I feel like the experience in R&D, it was more learning, because I was so new in my career, and it goes back to the advocacy, right? I had an engineer, and he'd been there already like 20 years, and he came to me early on. It was like he just spotted me, and like I attracted him. And he was like, if there's anything you need, like I've got you, right? And I was like, So, in the initial stages, you're like, do I trust you? Do I not trust you? Because I haven't felt you out yet. But it was having him there, because what he did was when I couldn't figure things out, like I knew I could go to someone who wouldn't judge me, who would like help me along the way. So it wasn't so much the projects, but the relationships that evolved while I was in that role. Especially with him, and then working with the guys on the shop floor. I mean, it was a union, like it is a union facility. So like most people are out to get you, or they're cool with you. So it's like finding the ones who, one, they respect you and know that you're going to be a solution to my problem, and then trust your solution. So tying in with the other smart people who've been around for years, that built up my confidence to be able to show up to them and then be able to solve their problem. So it was more on the people side versus the actual tangible like things that were done.
Oh yeah. I'm still interested in the projects though. So
I
got the relationships, right? But I'm still interested in the projects. So because I'll take that. I know leadership. You're an author. You've done written multiple books, and I envy you. I'm looking like maybe I need to do this too. I need to write some books and do whatever. But so these lessons that you're learning, I totally get it, and I'm into the relationships as well. But I do like some tech, right? And I do like some aviation on a lot of different levels. So if you think about it, let me know what your favorite tangible project was, or the coolest one. Because I've been to Boeing St. Louis, and I've seen some pretty cool
so
stuff.
That was where I was supposed to work. I'm on the defense side I do helicopters. So it's Chinook. I started B-22 and then like spent the bulk of the career on Chinook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ever given the opportunity to ride in a Chinook?
I just had this conversation with my manager yesterday, because I give him heat. I'm like, listen, I've been here over 20 years. I've not flown in I've crawled over them, crawled under them.
What?
I was telling him about this weekend. I'm flying. I was like, we're going on the L-39, and I was like, yeah, still have not been on a Chinook. Nope, I watched them. I'm up close and personal with them, but never flown.
So you're still R&D then?
No.
So what is it now?
Now I'm on the program management side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of some defense projects,
international program management. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing.
It's different
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's all things, right?
Yeah.
So I was always like a specialist in the thing, and this gives me like this overarching approach to the whole entire program. It's super diverse, and I can't really get bored, and I gotta lean on the people who know the thing, and I can't like even test myself to know all of the things, because it's impossible.
Yeah. So I really enjoy this conversation because you have a perspective on aviation in a way, like, I've been in aviation for decades as well, but it's from a different perspective, using the equipment, flying the equipment. There's some management and some leadership stuff, in the military and those kind of things, but your perspective and the way you've seen aviation over the years is definitely different than mine. So with that, kind of going back to the questions, what I really want to get to is black women in aviation, right? So you told me about this first encounter, the manager at Boeing, and you said, hey, it wasn't a male-female thing here, or excuse me, it wasn't a black-white thing, right? It was, or racial differences. It was a male-female thing. So how have you seen the industry from your perspective change with respect to just women in aviation, and then we could say as well as diversity as well?
I think there's been a conscious push for more women. When I look at it now, even in my organization, I'll be in a room and I look around and I'm like, wow, there's more women, but I'm still the only black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's more white women who are in leadership roles, but that's it.
Do you find that to be lonely?
Oh, it is lonely being the only.
Yeah.
But I think over the years, I've just, I have an adaptation to it that, I didn't even know that I was the only one in the room for the longest time. I got so focused on the work that I forgot that I was a black woman. I was just this person showing up and doing the work every single day. It wasn't until probably around COVID time that I was like, wait, nothing really has changed. I'm still the only one. And that's just how it's been. And how is it going to change?
So let me ask that. Let's unpack that perspective for a second. So you said you were so into the work that you really weren't really aware of it. Do you think that was bad, good, or indifferent? The fact that you were able to get to a state, there was no issues or whatever arising on a day-to-day basis. Why would it be an issue at some point, and then kind of contribute to the loneliness?
Yeah, I think it was a good thing because I can't get wrapped up in that. Because if I get wrapped up in it, then everybody else is going to get wrapped up in it. If it's just Sam showing up and she's working, even the guys that I work with, I'm one of the guys because of how I show up, and I'm not focused on the fact that I'm a girl. I'm not focused on the fact that I'm a black woman. They know that Sam's coming, she's capable, and we're going to trust that she's able to take us where we need to go.
Yeah. So my experience has been that same as well in a lot of ways. I would show up to either a ship or a squadron, and I would be the only black pilot there. In most ready rooms, I would be. But for me, I was constantly in that state where you talked about, the focus was the mission, the focus was getting those things on, and if there's people that are professional enough to do that and be that way, then hasn't been an issue, and it wasn't an issue for me. There's only one or two times where there may have been an issue came up, but that was where, hey, we talk face to face about it, kind of deal. That's not always going to be the case, but I guess what I'm getting at is, it seems to me that aviation, and in a lot of ways, because of the conscious push, that people can get to that state where we can be different, because we're always different on some level. You're always going to be the only in some case or whatever else. So these differences don't matter. We rally around and work toward the unity piece of it, and just get the job done. That's euphoria. I know that there's going to be people that always got issues, and so how do we deal with that? I think for what I've seen is that aviation in general has progressed where we can get around the aviation side of it, the job, the mission, and those kind of things, and it's fewer and fewer bad apples or issue arising kind of things. And if there's such a conscious push to they are now the only, or they are the out, kind of on the out. That still doesn't change the fact that how you feel as an individual. Yeah, it is nice to be able to look across and see someone that is like you on some level, whatever that level is. But one of the things I point out to folks, and I know you've seen this, when you're an innovator and you're at the leading edge of whatever it is, books, whatever, you're gonna be the only, because you're on the leading edge. You're the first one. You're the first. So to some degree, we got to be comfortable in that space as the only, because I'm first, so I'm going to be. So what are your experiences that led you and made you want to start Black Women in Aviation? I know we're right there at it, so we'll kind of talk about when and how you made that decision.
So there was a defining moment, and this was it was actually when I was in R&D, and my manager sent me to a conference for women in aviation. And I went to that conference, and he sent all the females that were on his team. And it was a great conference. And I looked around like to see who all the women in aviation were, and I didn't feel like I was represented. And I kind of just took that and I put it in my back pocket, and I never really addressed it like years, for a lot of years. Fast forward to like around COVID time, like I was doing a lot of self-work and a lot of self-reflection. And I really just started, and that was around the time where I was writing my book. So I was like, how am I the person I am today? Like, what is like really in me that allows me to show up in these spaces? And I deduced that it was really like just the confidence that I had to show up with, because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like if I was trying to be in this space, it was a requirement. And then that led to my book, The 3 Keys to Unlock and Unleash Your Confidence. And then after the book, people started asking me to come speak. And I was like, well, I'm not a speaker. I'm not really trying to do that. That's not like my jam. And then I was like, you know what? Let me not close that door.
Yeah.
But I'm also someone who feels the need to qualify myself. So I was like, I can't just go up and speak. I need to now get a coach, like go through whatever learning that I need to learn in order to do that at the level in which like I need to show up. During the one of the programs that I was doing, I discovered, like, it was crazy. The coach, he came to me, he was like, so Sam, what do you do? And I'm like trying to figure it out. And then my friend over here, she's like crisp with her verbiage. I'm like, and I was like, I'm just trying to help the old Sams. And he was like, and then he took like what I said, like a real good coach would, and he made it sound real nice. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And I didn't know, like, I met him for the first time, and I was crying with this guy. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Like, why am I crying with a stranger telling him what I do? Well, the reason it hit a soft spot, and like I think for me and the way that I show up, like I'm tough, but none of us are really as tough. Like we all got layers to this toughness, and something he said being in that space, it just really hit a spot of me, and I got super vulnerable, which is not something I allow myself to do. And then I was like, you know what? So I went through the program, and I discovered one day while doing the homework, I was like, Black Women in Aviation. Like, it literally just came up like that. Yeah. And I was like, is there such a thing? And I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, all right, so we're looking it up. And I was like, I don't see it. So, of course, I told my husband, and he was like, well, maybe it's yours. And I was like, nah, there's no way. I mean, beyond Google searches, I was like, there's got to be this thing. And when I realized that there wasn't, and him being Opti, he was like locked in on all of the platforms to secure the name. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, D, I don't do women. I was like, listen, I just show up and I do the work. I was like, how am I getting a whole organization of things that I typically don't do? And he was like, you'll be fine. Like, we got this. And I was like, so reluctantly, and I prayed on it, of course, because I was just like really confused how I don't do any of those things, and here it is. This is now my assignment. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I guess we'll do it. So we started the foundation, and really the foundation is, like I said, I didn't see it. And so now, because I didn't see it, I need to ensure that those who are not seeing it see it. Yeah. They see the representation. They see that you don't have to dress up like a guy. You could be a female and be in the industry. Like, there's all these different things, and the perceptions, really just breaking all of those for the people who believe that it's not for them, it's for those other people, not for my people.
So, the name Black Women in Aviation is very specific, but anybody can support, right? Mm-hmm. So how do people, one, get in contact with Black Women in Aviation, and two, how can they support?
So we like simple and easy. Everything is Black Women in Aviation. BlackWomenInAviation.com, Black Women in Aviation on LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as Facebook. So our name is consistent, and really, like, from a support perspective, we look to it. The mission is to increase the statistics. We're at currently 1%. So we want to double that. But anyone can help to double that. So you don't have to be a black woman in aviation to do that. You're someone who understands that the industry is underrepresented and you want to help us with our mission to be able to double it.
Yeah. So it was really cool partnering up with Black Women in Aviation a couple weeks ago up in Manassas around some leading edge technology, electric aviation, those kind of things. And what I liked about what you guys did was, even though the name was Black Women in Aviation, I did see some young men as recipients of this and participating in it. And I thought that was very savvy, and I thought that was very important because that's another way that people can see and change mindsets or whatever else about Black women in particular, but everyone can benefit from getting into aviation, and there's opportunities for everyone. Yeah, Black women in aviation, there's the metrics, and the metrics are going to change, not just because Black women in aviation is there, because like you said earlier, there's a conscious push within the change to change those things, or change the numbers and get the representation out there. But I do want to ask this one particular question: is it a problem that it's 1%, only 1%?
The problem is the number. And so not the number itself, but so I always reference back to, I saw the August of 2022, American Airlines, they led the all-black flight crew flight in honor of Bessie Coleman's 100-year anniversary. I was like, we are in 2022. And this was something that they intentionally did. It wasn't just because they had the crew. Okay. So it's not so much the number, it's the fact that it doesn't happen because that's how it's supposed to happen. In order for us to show up, there's got to be full intentionality behind it. And so we're being intentional with exposing the young Black girls, and then also on the other side, retaining the beautiful Black queens who are out here in the industry, because if we fuel the pipeline and then have people coming out, then we're never going to hit the statistics and the numbers that we want and keep it there.
Yeah. That's solid. That's good. What other kind of events, or how are you putting your mission into action? What are the other events and things that you guys are a part of, are doing, and those kind of things?
So I want to celebrate you and Forgotten Heroes Foundation because that was a pilot. It was a pilot for us. Prior to working with you, we did one-day events, and it great events. But what I saw in the event that we hosted was I saw light bulbs turn on because of the continuity, and you got the theory, you got the hands-on, and then you got the real hands-on where you're on the aircraft. So that consistent flow of knowledge and application was really important, which was not something that we had done prior. So now taking that into the best practices, and I'm no, we could do a one-day event. That's cool, but then now I need that next. So that event happens, you're yay, I love it. So now we got to sign you up for something. Yeah. So here's this camp, here's this program that now you could participate in to stimulate you further, to excite you further, so that now okay, so there's options. And part of it too is all of the pathways. One of the things is they think of aviation and they're well, I don't really want to be a pilot, and I'm not trying. Yeah. And I'm I still am learning every day about the various pathways in our industry. And so being able to open those doors for them and then showing them what that looks like, and at all levels.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate the shout out and the celebration. And we are, Forgotten Heroes, we're definitely passionate about, getting opening everyone's minds to the idea. And what I've seen and what we see is that along with the follow through, and that's the catchphrase that we're additionally working on, making the events longer and having the connection as these people, these young heroes as we call them, go out and do great things. Side story about Forgotten Heroes. So one of the programs we do is we provide discovery flights. This discovery flight is more than just a flight. I mean, today we did a flight for D, and just think if he had that exposure or that experience several years ago. Now, D, he could fly a plane. He flew the plane like a champ today or whatever else, but his perspective on aviation would have been changed. Things that are opened up. Yeah, I can't see myself doing that. So the discovery flight is important on several levels, and the main level is can you see yourself doing this? And this isn't just flying the plane. It's about being in aviation. The thing about the flight, though, it's very immersive. And it's very, like your whole body is involved with that, right? And so we've always tried to tie, the academics, the book work, whatever else, and it culminates, it culminates to that. But we do these discovery flights, and we do also incentive rides. And so there's the ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, at various colleges. We've taken up some of their honor graduates or some that have been nominated for, for the ride. And we do that. Also, these are people that are in college and they're like thinking about aviation, whatever else, but we do it early on. And then what's been extremely rewarding is the fact that I still get calls from these people that have gone up on these rides, and they tell me, hey, I'm about here. And then there's a couple that have just now gotten their wings. And they're going out, they're going to do aviation. I'd like to think, I know that it wasn't all just a discovery flight or this incentive ride, but I do know that experience is imprinted, and it definitely plays in the calculus, if you will, to how people get to the end of it. So and so that event that we were able to do, it was amazing to see light bulbs, see the competition. And I'll say this: one of the guys you brought, they reached out to me, and we've decided to do some mentorship on the competition that they're going to be involved with. So it was just really cool to kind of network on that level. So a lot of things in that experience that we've talked about. We talked about hooking up with someone who's willing to mentor. Yeah, he emailed me. Hey, is this my guy? Yeah, that's my guy. He emailed me out, he told me he was going to do it. I was like, all right, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. Right. I'm willing. I'm ready to be ready. So reflective. I got to follow through on, being that. And he was super bright. He was definitely he's going to do some amazing things. I'm excited about seeing, how how I'm able to be involved with that, and how, I'm just waiting. I'm excited about the experience, but it kind of ties back to what we've been talking about with being ready to mentor, always looking at self-reflection. All this stuff kind of comes up. But those in order to, I think, to change the numbers, that more or less what we talk about, and you've expressed this as well, is getting people exposed to the experience, the aviation, and it not just one pathway. Aviation, the industry has multiple pathways, and you've ticked off like 3 or 4 of them. Then you're out. You went from cranking wrenches or whatever else to writing documents to R&D, which we need to turn these cameras off so I can hear some more about this R&D. I'm super excited about that side of it. Program management, international sales. I mean, this is amazing stuff that you're able to do in your pathway. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to just pick one. You're able to zigzag, whatever else. But it's been a awesome conversation. Is there anything else you want to talk about with?
No, I think what you just said, like the like the pathways, and you don't have to pick one. If you ask me if I had a blueprint for where I am right now, hell no.
Yeah.
No, but it's being open to learning. And I think that's been like one of the key factors that have afforded me all of the opportunities that I've had, is that openness. And I'm like, they all line up. They line up, but I didn't really plan it out like that. Having an AMP, I didn't know that would, like, people look at you being in the program, and guess what? I know when you're BSing me.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's right. Yeah.
So there's leverage that some other folks may not have, and I'm like, oh, so I could ask some different questions. So there's definitely some advantages to that altogether.
Well, I still want to get you down here and crank some wrenches. I know it's been a long time. Turn some wrenches.
Look,
now
you got two. You got 2 Mitchells.
Yeah. Now it's not just turning wrenches. We're doing like composite materials and all that kind of stuff, which I know you've seen throughout your career, like some of the stuff behind that. But that's super awesome. This has been a great conversation. I really do appreciate what we've talked about so far. One last question. Where like we talked about the history of your pathway and a little bit about what we've seen on our end. Where do you see it from your perspective, aviation, on 2 different levels? One, just the industry, technology, and that kind of thing. But on the other side, where do you see it as because I know you like the relationship and the people side of it, the leadership and those kind of things. Where do you see? Where do you see it going in the future?
So aviation as a whole, and I always make the joke about this because, like, I mean, I went to school over 20 years ago. It's evolved.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, drones were not an option in my curriculum,
Yeah.
and now they're an elective. Like, I'm like, man, I wished I could have done such a thing. I would have totally took them up on it. So I know that the industry is going to continue to evolve in ways that, like, we're not even aware of right now.
Right.
Like, when I think about it just more holistically, it's, For me, it's being able to do the work that we're doing now. We're planting seeds, and eventually these seeds, some are going to take longer to sprout. Some are sprouting right now, and we're not even tracking it. But to continue to show up in the community, to continue to show up for those who we need to show up for, the kind of work that we do, we never know the impact that we make.
Yeah.
Like, people are being impacted from touch points from years ago, and they don't even have to meet you. So for me, my goal and the goal of the organization is to continue to impact people so that they get excited, so that they want to be a part of it, and that they're in it for the long haul, because that's truly how we're going to be able to increase these numbers and make a happy and healthy industry, because the numbers are, I mean, when you talk about shortfalls and how many maintainers and pilots that we need within the next 10 years, I mean, it's a guaranteed job. That's why I got in. I was like, look, I'll never want for an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important aspect of it, is the industry as a whole. There's an impending shortfall. It historically, some of the communities that we're going into haven't, the recruiting efforts weren't going there. Conversely, there was no representation or whatever else, and so I think it's incumbent upon us to police our own, to reach back in and to do those things, not from, necessarily a struggle, but like, look, these opportunities exist. I'm here to tell you, and oh, by the way, I did some of them myself, and so that's super impactful. And I think that also, from my perspective, has changed the industry, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way we're all thinking. It does address the technological, the managerial, the leadership shortfalls that we have, because now we're doing it early and we're mentoring them on multiple levels, not just the technical application and the education side, but the side that you're talking about and really is really resonating is, hey, the people sides, and how do you be ready when that opportunity comes, and how can you be that opportunity for somebody else? It's really, really amazing. So over the conversation, we've been talking, and multiple times you've mentioned, hey, you just showed up as Sam, not focusing on being a woman or being black or anything. You're like, hey, I'm here to do this job or whatever else. But it also, especially seemed like it was a revelational moment when Opti was talking about the name of the organization, those kind of things. So how does the work, I would say, that that you're doing, how do you see that impacting so that people can still show up and be, but not ignore other aspects of them?
So I think it's important to note that representation matters. And the name within itself, which was something I had to literally fight my lawyer for, because she didn't think that we were going to be able to get through. And I was like, no, it has to be that. And part of why it has to be that is because, like I said, representation truly matters. So when people find us, they're not necessarily looking for the organization. There's a thought that they're trying to find information on, and then we pop up, which now creates that relationship for them to understand that there is an organization out here that represents someone who is a black woman, which we don't walk around saying that we're a black woman, but we recognize that we are black women and that we have a community of other black women in aviation, in aerospace, who are doing great things. And this community is here for us so that we all could thrive together.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really, really cool. So we talked about the future of aviation. What's next for Black Women in Aviation? Like the next step, and then what do you see in the next 3 to 5 years? What are you guys working on?
So I'm super excited about what's to come. We've really just been building up these first few years. We want to engage on the professional side. The first year, it was more, we did a lot of events for the younger up-and-coming aviators. We still want to be able to do those, but we want to tie into where we're also focusing on the professional piece of it, to where there's mentorship. Like, not because you're in the industry, but we're going to forget about you. So we have memberships where we're going to be running coaching programs, and a lot of it is different than your typical memberships, because I've joined organizations. I pay $100 and I don't get anything for the whole year. They have a conference or something and you got to go to that. But other than that, so I'm like, how do you show up differently?
Yeah.
Like, what's your unique thing? And for me, I keep talking about the people part of it, like the mindset part of it. And it's really that coaching that goes along with it, because you can't show up to work every day. You can't show up in this industry if you're not being coached to be resilient. Otherwise, now there's a high likelihood that you're going to fall out.
Yeah.
So the focus for us is to grow our memberships over the next few years on the professional side, and then really just be able to get folks to that next level. Still keeping in mind that, like, the future aviators and aviation professionals are an important piece of it. But we want to be able, like, it's like a Chinook. We're doing them in tandem. So we're going to be able to work both.
That's awesome. So membership, what does it look like?
So for the memberships, we're focused on, like, the coaching part of it, the mentorship. You talked about the importance of mentorship. So really, mentorship comes in a couple of ways. There's one-on-one mentorship. Some people think they like it, but then there's also group. You would not know to ask a question, and you could be in a forum where someone asks a question and you're like, man, I really needed that, but I didn't know I needed that in that moment. So being able to provide both options for our members, and then, like, the continuous networking and outreach, because I don't know that you exist, and now I'm in a circle where I've connected with you, and that just opened it up and expanded who I am and what I could do.
Cool. Well, thanks again for showing up. It's been awesome. I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I look forward to connecting up and getting together and supporting mutual events in the future.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
What's up, community? Samantha T. Mitchell, founder and president of Black Women in Aviation. And I wanted to stop by today, really just to invite you once again to be a part of our community. What does it mean to be a part of the Black Women in Aviation community? Black women in aviation are less than 1%. If you are amongst the 1%, or if you're trying to be a part of the 1%, we invite you to be a part of the organization. We're running a promotion. Our memberships are complimentary, and we're building up those numbers right now so that we could serve you as we launch into 2025. So become a member, go on our website, blackwomeninaviation.com, and hit the membership button. It is for those who are pursuing the pathways, for those who are in the pathways, who really just need that support system, that mentorship. And for those who are in school, there's scholarship opportunities that will be available, and all that will be launched as we build out for 2025. So I invite you to come follow us, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, blackwomeninaviation.com. We will see you soon.